All right, well, like the banner says, Hanna is back. Win, lose, he's on the show. First time I'm actually addressing him front to front because I'm not the producer today. I am taking over the show today. So let's bring on Mr. Hitman himself, Mr. Brandon Hanna.
Hello.
How are you,
Thank for
man?
having me on again.
It was our pleasure to get back on, and I was excited to talk to you because last time I didn't really have a chance, but I definitely wanted to pick your brain about a couple of things. Let's start off right off the bat. There's a lot of talk out there in social media, Twitter, etc., that Hanna is like the fourth best heel in IG. That kind of like statement, does that make you mad, or do you love being underestimated by the public?
A little bit of both, I think. It's never entirely fun to hear negative comments about myself in the comment section or the Facebook group or what have you. Some of the stuff can get to me a little bit more than others, but at the end of the day, it does all kind of fuel my motivation to prove these people wrong. And to also just kind of like annoy them a bit, that as much as they dislike me, I will always be around it. I'm not going anywhere. That does bring me a little bit of joy because I know what I'm worth. I know my relationship with my manager and other people in this league and my faction mates and my teammates and all this stuff. So I know my own standing is good, and it doesn't matter the performance of one match or another. It's at the end of the day, I'm still going to be around and I'm going to keep doing my thing. I'm going to keep competing, and the people who don't like it, they're just going to have to deal with it.
And also, I'm curious because any good heel, right? You forget that they're not portraying themselves; they're portraying like a cranked up or just a made up version. So, how do you balance the real Brandon Hanna with Hitman? How does that come into play?
Yeah, sure. And that kind of also goes back to the comments thing a bit too, because sometimes I get the reaction that I want out of people where they're saying things about me that are negative, but it was the kind of reaction that I was trying to invoke. Sometimes the comments can get a little more personal, a little more past what I'm portraying on screen, and those ones can cut a little deeper sometimes, for sure. And so it is hard to find that separation between the sport aspect of it, which is something that I do study really hard. I do compete really hard. And when I lose, I don't want to also additionally be told that I don't belong or that I stink. That's hard to deal with. But then at the same time, you do have to take into consideration, like, okay, well, you're up there, you're portraying this version of yourself that is very unlikable. And when you lose, people are going to be happy that you lost. If you win, people are going to say things like, "Oh, he got lucky," or this or that or the other thing. So it can be hard to separate those two things sometimes. So I just kind of try to go out there and do my job and do what I have to do for myself and for my faction and for the league, and disregard some of the stuff that can be hard to separate. It's when the camera's off, I have to be able to kind of flip a switch a bit.
Now, but before Soda goes, I just want to give a compliment though. The last two matches I've seen, I've liked that just not just the heel character Hitman, the fusion you're starting to make on like portraying your real self, but also have Hitman quips into it. I'm really liking your character so far this year. It's a lot more balanced, and I'll be honest. In the first times I did not like you at all. I was like, it was so annoying. I have a hard time with Brash, but the adjustments you've been doing, I really like what I see. So Soda, he's our second runner-up for our game. So I'll let you. This is a Canadian takeover, by the way. So I'll let you talk, my man.
First off, I'm on the opposite of Lou. I liked your heel stuff last year because I like the promos that make you listen, and you were definitely doing that last year because you didn't jump all over the emotional spectrum. You kept it very even keeled, and I really enjoy that type of stuff. But my question for you is, what is the biggest difference you're seeing from last year being on a faction as opposed to this year? Because last year you were one of the more bigger stars on the Droogs, but it was, it seemed a little clustered as opposed to this year where you have Roxy as your manager. What's the biggest difference that you've noticed so far?
Sure. Well, I definitely appreciate the compliments both to my character last year and how I'm portraying myself on screen this year. I am trying to do something a little different, infuse my normal everyday personality a little more so into what I'm representing, but also kind of have that edge, kind of have my moments where it's like, that's the Brandon Hanna we know from seasons past. Like nothing's changed, but
he's
then
still there.
yeah, he's still there. He's still
out.
got that edge. But I'm also I'm trying to really take the game seriously, and I'm in a faction now that we all really support one another, and we take winning very seriously. We're constantly trying to help one another out. But at the end of the day, if somebody loses, it's like, all right, no, we'll get the next one. What do we need to work on? This is where you were weak on in this match. Well, we're gonna fix that up so the next match you can come out and you can compete, in an area where you weren't able to do so prior. And it's just kind of all kind of building each other up. And I think I've said this before, that, it's really a testament to a lot of the new people that have come into the league this year. There's a fair amount of rookies, and, we have people on our faction like Christina and Jacoby and Felix, and their enthusiasm just kind of brought everyone together, and created, a really great community within the faction. And it's been really great to be able to work with other people. And someone like Alex Damon, who was formerly my enemy, is now my friend. And, we're just working hard to lift each other up as much as we can. And, it's exciting to be able to kind of pick the brain of someone who you competed with in the past, especially someone that you've lost to in the past. You're like, what happened? What were you studying that I wasn't studying? What are you working on? What's your approach? This is my approach. And it's really great to have someone to bounce ideas off of, as opposed to last season where I was with the Burning Droogs and we had managerial changes, and obviously on screen, me and Ken didn't get along very well. And there was even that match against Alex where I kicked Ken off the match. I manage myself, and it's much different now. I don't have to worry about having to play both sides of it. Where with a manager like Roxy, I just got to focus on playing the game. And I don't know if you want to get into the most recent match, but if I do something that is controversial or I didn't get a point, but I could get a point, she's right there to jump in and make the argument for me in a moment where I might not be thinking entirely. You're all right, what's the best argument to say? What does the rule book state? Can I do this? Can I get away with that? And that kind of saves you from the embarrassment. And I love how much it pisses people off, but the embarrassment of another Green Hornet situation.
yeah, fair point. And then this is a question I realized I seem to be asking every guest, so I'm just gonna go ahead and ask it. What is game day like for you? Are you the type of person that okay, I know I'm playing today, I'm gonna relax, be zen, or are you more I'm gonna study right up until bell time, or is it a mixture of both?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of a mixture of both. I would say in my first season in the Schmoedown, my approach was no studying on game day. I wake up that morning, I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know, and nothing's going to change that. Just be in the right mindset. Go up there, be relaxed, have fun, do what you got to do. But don't worry about what you don't know, because you've been prepping all the way up until the night before, and you can't expect yourself to do any more than that. Last season, I kind of changed that up a bit. I found myself more so studying the day of the match as well. I have, my own set of notes that I like to review for certain wheel slices that just kind of refresh and re-jog my memory. And I really like what that was able to do for me. For example, when I played Alex Damon and I got Spinner's Choice, I picked Star Trek and I had a perfect round 2. That was because I decided to study the day of, and I was like, you know what, before the match, let me review my Star Trek notes. And I probably still would have gotten there, but it made the round a lot easier for me because it'd be like, oh yeah, I just read this. This one's Abronath. Oh yeah, like Tim Cattrall. Oh yeah, this, that, like boom, boom, boom. I just read all of these notes off of my spreadsheet. So it made my life a lot easier. So I really liked doing that. So now it's kind of a mixture of, okay, morning of, let's review some notes. Let's, brush up on some things that maybe I haven't had time to watch in the last few weeks. And maybe within like an hour before the match tapes, it's more of like, all right, like relax, like make sure you drink some water, eat some food, like, just like be in a good and healthy mindset. So it's a mixture of both.
Right on.
Hi, Hannah. Nice to see you again.
Hello.
So, obviously, you weren't in the free-for-all last week. So it's kind of, I have like a two-part question. Number one is, do you want to be in the free-for-all at any point? And two is, how far, if you do want to be in the free-for-all, how far advanced do you have to schedule yourself to be in the free-for-all?
Sure. I would definitely love to be in the free-for-all someday. It didn't work out this past season. The Stars are fortunate enough to have a very talented roster of people who are all very, very, very good at singles. And then, of course, you have Alex Damon, who is in there, I believe, is number 40. I mean, you can't not have the star power of somebody like an Alex Damon in the free-for-all, especially if he wants to do it. And so, like, I completely, like, understand, this is not like a situation of like Kate leaving me out of the Inner Geekdom tournament type thing. It's like me personally, like, yes, I would love to do it. Who wouldn't want to do the free-for-all? But at the end of the day, when you look at the faction rosters and you look at, okay, 40 competitors, it's like I might not make the cut, and that's okay because there are people that are more deserving of playing in something that is singles movie trivia based for the most part. Obviously, there were Inner Geekdom questions, and I was playing along, and I think I only missed, to be honest, I missed 2 Inner Geekdom questions, and they were like very obscure fantasy sci-fi that I hadn't gotten around to studying yet. Like, I think Conan the Destroyer was like one of the questions. I was like, oof, haven't watched that one yet. But for the most part, it's fun to play along, and I did have some rounds where I did really well, and that's kind of the fun of free-for-all too, and also the frustration where you're like, if like I go in this round and I'm one and done, but it's like, man, if I go in this round, I clear the table. It's just like the questions sometimes fall where they fall for the better or the worse. And as far as like how far in advance, I think they normally do those things on a Saturday. So because it's such a large event and because it's probably best with people's schedules. So I'm normally available on Saturdays. So, I mean, they could tell me the day before. I'd be like, okay, I'm in. Like, I'm not going to say no to the free-for-all. I don't need to prep. I'm good. I'm confident in my overall singles knowledge. I think I performed pretty well in my one teams match, and I hope for more opportunities in those 2 divisions in the future. But, it's just a lot of fun, so I would totally love to do it.
And I actually got that Conan the Destroyer question because I saw a picture of Arnold and Andre the Giant together, and Arnold just looks like a small little shrimp guy.
That's right.
That's how I equate, Andre the Giant. That was easy for me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's gap in my knowledge at the time.
Yeah. Go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead.
All right. Hey, Brandon. My question is for you. I was rooting for you through that match and everything. I was hoping that you would actually come out with the W and everything. But my question is this. When it comes down to you losing and stuff like that, does Roxy always have a plan of working on a new strategy with you when it comes to studying after coming out of this match?
Yeah, sure. I think it's something, it's not so much Roxy having a plan for me, but it's like a conversation between the two of us. Like, okay, like, what do you need from me to help you get to where you need to get? We have study sessions as factions. I like to do things on my own. I like to study with Sabrina a lot. She likes to watch movies with me and help me out a lot there. So like, it's a combination of me doing my own thing, like working with Sabrina, but also working with Roxy and working with my faction mates and just kind of trying to like balance all of that out. And so we don't necessarily have like a specific game plan that is like, okay, like, oh, I saw that you did poorly in this. Let's focus on that. It's a conversation of all right, like let's evaluate where I am as a competitor and the areas where I need to work on. And then from there, I like to come up with my own kind of schedule and approach. And then, you know, Roxy and my faction mates, they're there to help me wherever I need help. And so it's just a conversation with everybody on what are the needs of not just myself, but like other competitors, obviously in the faction. What are our needs? What do we need to do? Do we need to have a study session? Do we need to have a mock match? What categories do we need to focus on? And so that's just like, it's just us constantly talking about it all the time.
Piggybacking off of that, I'm curious, now that your matches has passed, right? And maybe even more so because you just aired this week. But what's the emotion right now to the way you lost to Parker? Are you angry? Are you revisiting some stuff gameplay-wise? What's the emotion now time has passed to today?
Yeah, certainly. You know, I always, anytime I have a tough loss, I replay the match over and over in my head, and I'm like, what could I have done differently? And of course, yeah, like it does make me a little angry to lose like that, and then see some of the fan reactions to the loss, and, you know, seeing a couple comments that, you know, but people just saying that like, oh, I don't belong, or maybe he would be good as a test for rookies when they come in, or he needs to go down to the FCL and work on his stuff. Like stuff like that makes me just like want to prove everybody wrong and hit the movies, hit the books, hit the spreadsheets right away and get to work, because you know, when you're competing, you kind of like see the game from a different perspective than when you're just like watching from the sidelines. And that's just not true. That's true not just as a fan watching versus a competitor, but competitors watching other competitors as well. You know, it's different when you're in the moment. You know, let's look at that match, and, you know, I had a tough round 2, but I'm thinking to myself, okay, you know, I played it too safe in some areas. I dropped down to multiple choice for the question about Leia feeding Wicket to earn his trust. It's like I knew that, but I wasn't so confident in it, where I'm like, okay, I'll drop to multiple choice and be safe. It's like, well, that cost me a point. Like sometimes you just got to kind of swing for it and hope that you got it right. I should have known the first word of the Phantom Menace crawl. Like, I don't know why I didn't. I got it mixed up with, I got the first sentence and the second sentence mixed up in my head. And it's like, that's like, stupid mistake. I've always wanted to just like have the crawls written down and just like brush through them. And I just never got around to doing that. Cost me some points there. And yeah,
it gives you the motivation to do it now, right?
It gives me the motivation to do it now for sure. Yeah. And then there's just like that one TIE fighter question. That was a deep cut, man. I'm like, that one, I'm like, okay, I'm not mad at myself for that one. It's like, I could have known it. But I didn't, and that happens sometimes.
Yeah, might as well ask, like, what color underwear is Kylo Ren wearing at the specific scene, right?
Yeah. Answer, none.
Hey.
Vaseline.
Good Lord, Soda, really? All right, so let's not talk about Commando style, which I'm a very big practitioner of, apparently. Hey, balls loose, bro. We got our producer that wanted to just have a small question for you. So Dan, or Maple Dan, as we know it, before I get confused with Double D, what do you have for us, bro?
Not too much of a question, just an observation, and no, actually, a thank you.
Oh well,
because it's always great to have more villains in the league, and I personally love like all of the heals, so it's kind of a win-win that you're both a great player and a great villain, so I can just like have fun watching all your matches, even if I do kind of hate on you online for no reason. And like, yeah, and I also wanted to say, like, because of all of those negative comments around you, you fell several rounds in my fantasy leagues, and I think I have you in both of mine, and you're just gonna get points for me. So I thank you for that as well.
I appreciate it, and yeah, it's like I can always tell the negative comments from the people who like get it and get the character and get the storylines and all that stuff, and from the people who like don't. So it's like when I see like a really good one that's like digging at me, like I always appreciate it and like laugh to myself. So like, you know, it's always in good fun. I always really love it when people come after me. So that's part of the fun for me as well. There was like a really good comment to like I saw in the YouTube comment section where it was like someone was just like, oh, I've never been so happy to see the shadow spelled correctly in my whole life. like that stuff like that's super funny to me.
Now, Andrew from Let's Get Ready has a interesting question. Do you think that IG players should have the choice of picking your own slice?
I think I understand why they don't do it. Like, you know, PJ Campbell's a very good friend of mine, and we've had conversations about this. I totally understand why they don't do it, because it is, compared to singles, a limited filmography. You know what could potentially be on the wheel. You can prepare for anything that is going to be on the wheel. Where in singles, like, you can prepare all day, and there still might be stuff on the wheel you didn't prepare for. Mm-hmm. So I totally get that mindset. However, I do think strategically, it would be a good change to like have us pick one slice every match that we know for a fact is going to be on there. So like, it's like, okay, like the wheel could be tough. Like it could be like some of the stuff that I'm not 100% in, but I know for a fact there's at least that one slice on there guaranteed that is like my favorite slice that I know I'm going to do well in. And it adds kind of like to the strategic element of the game, I feel like. So like maybe like one slice could be a good addition, but I totally understand why they don't. All
right. Well, again, Hanna, thank you very much for coming on again to this show. Where can people find you?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon Hanna 07. You can find me at my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Brandon Hanna, where I do a weekly science news show. I guess hence why I'm wearing a Apollo NASA shirt right now. I'm a big science geek, if you will. So if you want to come over and talk science with us once a week, that's a great place to do it. And yeah, no, obviously you can catch me in the Schmoedown on my own revenge tour soon. And thank you so much for having me on.
Well, Brandon and Hanna, everyone, thank you again for coming on. And I'm sure this is not going to be the last time on SoS. So you take care till next match, my friend.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
You want to hear something funny? The mic wasn't on that whole time.
No way.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, wow.
So smooth.
You want to hear something funny? The mic wasn't on that whole time.
No way.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, wow.
So smooth.